You are on Living Well today, and I am Angela Moonen, your host for the next hour. And we have with us today a really wonderful, colorful character from the Midwest, Nick Sherf. And we're going to learn all about Nick and his sidekick, Jack, today. Nick, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Jack, we'll see if Jack wants to, he's being camera shy.
Yeah, he is. Yes,
No,
we'll
you'll hear
roll with it.
him. Yeah, you'll hear him
We didn't,
chirp.
maybe we didn't fulfill all of his artist, his writer contract,
Oh my
and
gosh.
he wanted sausages, he wanted we didn't fulfill all his requests.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, so we're talking, if you've joined us before on Living Well today, we cover all sorts of interesting topics, but the core of them is always to do with the essence of the show, which is living well and living well today, learning to live in the present moment, understanding your own voice in the world and how you cultivate that, how you cultivate a life of well-being, both financially, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, physically, etc. And oftentimes we have entrepreneurs, people who have in some way, shape, or form gone through a dramatic shift in their life where they came to this aha moment. They came to this realization that maybe there's something more to this than meets the eye, and maybe that's worth exploring. Maybe that's worth the adventure. So that, I think, Nick, encapsulates at least your last couple of years, especially, but through the pandemic, all of that, and all of the priming the pump, if you will, to get you to where you are today. So take us back for a moment here and share with me, because I don't know your complete story either in terms of the journey that got you into lending, etc. Where do you live in the world, and give us the whole spiel.
The whole spiel. Okay. If you would have asked me even like my senior year of college, Nick, do you think you're going to be a mortgage lender? I would have no idea what that is. I was not anywhere on the horizon. I am a finance kid. I have a degree in economics and business. So numbers are what I like. Money. Everyone loves money. Um, so I decided that I wanted to take the leap and become some kind of financial planner. It's what I grew up watching my father do. And
Okay, so your dad did this work, did
yes,
the
he's done it.
finance.
He's still kind of doing it. I mean, call it 40 years of experience. And so growing up, I mean, that was just what was talked about at the dinner table. And then me introduced to his clients, family events. And I'm like, maybe this is something that I would like to do. Well, it didn't really work out because when I graduated from college, we had that thing called the Great Recession. No one was hiring. It was just like, okay, so I'm out of college. What do I want to do with my life?
Where did
So
you go to school, by the way? Where did you go to school?
I went to KU, University of Kansas, where we got that fake chicken bird kind of thing. I mean, I tell people this: Lawrence, Kansas, is a drinking town with a basketball problem. I mean, that's kind of what it's known for. So it was a
Okay,
great
so
4 years.
you grew up in Kansas? Did
I
you grow
did.
up?
I grew up. So Kansas City, where I'm from, it's literally half the town is on Kansas, half the town is on Missouri soil. So growing up, you had the University of Missouri and the University of Kansas. Then you had all the state schools and all that. But even my own father, he went to KU, and again, my whole goal was to maybe try and follow in his footsteps. So I tried. I really wasn't enjoying it to a degree. Just saying, is this what I want to do with my life? Because they always say you want to be happy with what you do. You want to feel like I love what I do, so I never work a day in my life.
Right, exactly.
Um, so I stepped back from that, and I remember I was working at a golf course, just in the pro shop, going like, okay, I'm gonna
Well,
live off
that's
my
not a
savings.
bad gig.
It's
I
not a
mean,
bad time to go out, play golf, meet people, and that's what I did. I used it for networking. Um, because the thing when I was at a big state school like KU, where I mean, it's like 35,000, 40,000 student population,
Whoa. That's
it's
a
not,
small city. My
it's a
goodness.
small city. I mean, and I learned one thing: it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I still carry that trait today, but I remember working in the pro shop. I was a regular, and I always, comment on something like this, like the car he drove. I'm like, "You drive that car?" And he asked me how he knew that. I said, "I'm a big car guy." And he basically just like, "Well, is this where you're working?" I'm like, "Why don't you come play around with us? Give us your story." And he worked for a mortgage company and went in for an interview, and they just fell in love. They said, "Hey, we'd love to make you an offer." So at that time, it was more of a mortgage broker where I was independently state licensed, and I think it was a great experience because I learned the business hands on that way. Passed all the tests, went and did that, and it was a lot of fun. But I just felt like it wasn't the right environment for me. So again, falling back on it's who you know, a very good friend of mine grew up with the president of one of the local banks here in Kansas City. And I reached out to him. I said, if you were me in this position, what would you do? A couple months went by. He got back to me and he goes, "Let's go to lunch." And I said, "Well, I'm not really looking for a job, but all right, I'll go to lunch." He brought in the sales manager and he made a comment and he goes, "I heard you're a really good salesman." And I go, "I would disagree." He goes, "You would? Why is that?" I said, "I don't sell. I offer service and build a relationship off of it." And he goes, "I want you to come work for me." So that was at the bank I was at for almost 10 years. And it was great. I learned the business a little bit further. I built a great client network where if anyone knows me, I treat clients like family. That's the overall goal. Flash forward into about the pandemic, 2020. I mean, everything was shut down. But I was still the guy that I was going to my office, and everyone remembers how low interest rates were. So I literally had a sleeping bag under my desk. I could just sleep there if I needed to. There at 7 o'clock in the morning, leaving there at 10 o'clock at night. But I loved what I did, and I knew I was putting people in a better position, and I just couldn't get enough of it. And then we had that pendulum swing the other way, where we had super low rates over here. Now it's starting to swing the other way, and we saw interest rates come up. So at that point, everyone is making job offers to get high producing loan officers, but I was happy where I was to a degree. I felt like I was leaving a lot of potential on the table. And I wanted to get more creative. I wanted to get my paintbrushes out, if you would, and start painting better pictures and growing more. So I interviewed about 10, 15, maybe even 20 different companies and saying, "I'm really looking at making a move in the right direction. I want to be shown value. Like, I can do so much for you, but what can you do for me to help me grow?" And that's where I landed. I landed at Prime Lending, which is a national company. They're owned by Plains Capital Bank down in Texas, but they've got a few offices here in Kansas City. And I couldn't be happier. I literally have every color of paint I need to paint the picture.
And,
So,
and no, and there are a couple of real gems there of lessons in that story you just shared. Number
absolutely.
one, how many of us actually ever go directly into what we studied in school, right? And I just had this conversation with my daughter, and that, what there seems to be some kind of stigma or shame around, well, yeah, you didn't go to school for what you studied.
Hmm.
It's come up here and there. And of course, if you go for something highly specialized, engineering or medicine or something, of course, that's going to be specific, and more times law, more times than not, people do pursue that particularly in some of those where there's just years and years of devoted academia, right? In terms
Hmm.
of getting those specialization, doctorate, et cetera, et cetera. But in terms of for 80 to 90% of the population, really, I mean, if you look back at the lessons learned, you're in a It's 35,000. I mean, you're in a sea of people, right? Um, I would think that on some level, you had to really build some resilience up for being thrown into what I see. I went to this little wee school, right? I mean, of 10,000 students compared relative to that, right? My daughter went to an even smaller one, 3,000 students, 4,000 students. And she
Mhm.
made a conscious choice that she wanted to be in that smaller arena. Before then, she went on her graduate. Syracuse University is quite a large school. But what were some of the lessons that you learned as you made that transition from college to that first job, about being resilient and about not giving up?
Oh, I can remember that. I mean, graduating in, this is me disclosing my age. Maybe I'm younger, maybe I'm older than some people. But back in, like I said, during that Great Recession,
So we're
you know,
talking '08,
oh
'09,
08,
that
oh
that
09. I mean,
yeah,
I was
okay.
the guy that, I kind of changed. I think it was my junior year. I was going into accounting and finance, and I just said, I don't know if I want to count beans all day, for a living.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of friends that are CPAs right now. We meet once a month and, have beer and all that, and it's great. But um,
People who are super juiced up about the numbers,
that's
you
what they
know?
are. They love what they do. And that's what it comes
Yeah.
down to. You love what you do and you never work a day in your life. But I can remember I literally had resume drafted, sending, God, I hope I mean, get a response. I mean, I tell people, that are younger than me trying to, like, what was it like getting your first job? And I go, you're downloading one of those dating apps and you're swiping right. I'm like, come on, someone please match with me. I just want to be happy. I just want a job. Uh, that's a lot what it was like.
Yeah.
And it really taught me one thing. Attitude is everything. You never want to, you want to know what you can bring to the table. And I tell a lot of my colleagues this today where, as we're in a higher rate environment and yeah, business has really slowed down, but I said, as an end user, you're talking to someone and it's kind of like, please, I need the sale. I need to do your mortgage. I need to eat. You're probably not going to want to do business with that person versus, hey, let's talk
Right.
about some options. I just want to show you the value that I'm going to bring to you. Let me know what kind of questions you have. And something I have in my traits now, again, is when I remember, hey, I'm a hungry college grad. I got these degrees now. Fortunate enough, I didn't really have a whole lot of student debt, but
Yeah.
there's the guest speaker of the cat I just saw,
Yeah,
but
I know.
uh,
Memphis decided to make an appearance.
exactly, I know. You see a blur in the back, and it's Jack getting comfy in his chair. But
Oh, I see. Oh,
yeah,
there
there he
he
is
is.
back there. He'll come on
Oh,
camera in a little bit. But that's what it was. Is like you said, the resilience. It's, hey, I know what I can bring to you. I just, you know, I want to learn more and develop my traits. I'm eager to learn. And you're absolutely right. I just remember 2009. I'm like, okay, I did the big thing. I graduated from college. Check
yeah,
mark.
and here you are. You want to say, "Here I am, world," and the world's like, "We don't
Yep.
care. We
Yep.
can't focus on that right now because we're trying to survive." Um, well, and the other interesting, and I've got a couple pictures of Jack too, and I promoted Jack ahead of time so
I
everybody
saw
can
that.
sense of what
Yeah.
he looks like. But another thing that you said, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. It's, the interesting thing too is that the other side of that is that not just who you know for the sense of networking for sure, but
Mhm.
we talk a lot about the power of the people that you surround yourself with.
Yep.
And when you talk about mindset, and we've all been there, we've all had that friend or colleague that is always glass half empty. It wouldn't matter if everything went right that day, they would look for the exception, they would look for what went wrong or what was the problem. And that's just how some people are wired, right? And you have
Exactly.
to start making conscious choices to look for the gifts, to look for the positive. And I think that has a lot to do too with the people that you surround yourself with, because it's tough. It's tough to to keep your glass overflowing if you've got people who are constantly sapping you or in a negative mindset. So I absolutely agree with you from a networking standpoint. It's vitally important who you connect yourself with and have conversations with, and make sure that your name is circling in their mind when they're considering X, Y, or Z, right? But also for the sake of, from my perspective, I think it's really important. Um, who do you choose to call your friends? Who do you choose to?
Exactly. You know,
And even you said you picked up the phone and you called someone that was in the banking industry that said, if you were in my shoes. So I think that's another piece. Do you have other mentors in your life,
I
Nick,
do.
through this journey, and what kind of role have they played for you?
And it's funny, like you made the comment as, hey, let's look at the glass, half full, not half empty. I literally quoted that this morning as, I'm always part of these little social media groups where we read each other's posts. And again, I'm in real estate groups and I see something that says, hey, my license renewal is this. I think this is unacceptable. And I just kind of replied, I'm like, well, listen, we can look at this as the glass half full or glass is half empty. I mean, there's a couple things you got to pay to play and no risk, no reward. And, and
Right,
overall, nothing in life is free. So, you can be negative about this or just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to pay this and I'm going to make sure I get my money's worth.
right, right.
And uh, being in the mortgage industry
And
now, I've
seeing it as an investment in yourself and
exactly,
your
it
growth
takes
and
money to make
learning.
money. I mean,
Yes.
if you could make money with no cost to you, everyone's going to be a millionaire around here, billionaire. It
Yeah.
always takes a risk. It's that leap of faith. I mean, as we first talked about, graduating from KU, I said I don't even know what I want to do with my life anymore. I'm going to try this avenue. And did I even think about mortgages? No. And right now, there's so many people leaving my industry because they're like, "Oh, the market's up. We don't know what to do." And I said, "I know what I need to do. I need to do this. I need to be dedicated." And
Well, yeah, because if you stay true to that, then those that are that don't have the heart for it, that don't have the stomach for it, that don't have their own inner resilience, I guess, right? Inner fortitude to look out at the horizon and keep going with it, they're going to bail. And that's
absolutely,
okay. That must mean there's a different path waiting to unfold for them, right? But you can be the beneficiary of that. And I think that that's, that willingness to go into the sea of 35,000 people and say, you know what, I'm going to come out on the other side of this more certain, more confident. And maybe it doesn't mean I have every single answer and I have a perfect plan, because what perfect plan ever works out anyway?
exactly.
Um, but it's more to do with the intentions that you're setting for yourself. Like, I'm going to stay true to myself. I'm going to stay curious. I'm going to keep learning. I'm going to keep going out there and putting myself out there and taking the risk and meeting people. When you talk about, um, risk reward, what are some of the, if you look in your life at some of the risks that you've taken, either financially or in the work that you do or in relationships that you have, just maybe a couple of life lessons, if you will, or stories around where you maybe took a big risk and maybe it didn't pan out,
Yeah.
maybe you fell flat on your face. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Ooh, we can always talk. I mean, like again, the biggest risk anyone can take is buying a house. That's what I tell people. I said, it's not where, I have the joke with a lot of first time homebuyers. I said, you need to understand the minute you sign that deed, that note of trust, this is not Walmart. This is not a store where you can say, you know what, I'm unhappy. I'm just going to take this back.
Right, right.
You have to sell your house. I mean, and you have to weigh out the cost. Like, what are the opportunity costs? I made a huge leap where I've lived in Kansas my entire life. I mean, I'm a Jayhawker, and what state do I live in now? Missouri. I mean, I'm only 10 minutes from my mom and dad, but uh, that was a leap. I'm moving into a new city that I really don't have any true roots to, and
Right.
it was a risk. But now I'm like, oh, I've got this here, and it's a new experience. I mean, there's nothing like going to somewhere you've never been, and you're like, I'm gonna try this, like a food place, and the next thing you know, you're like, you go there every Tuesday, like, oh yeah, it's great. I mean, there's this little diner down the street, and if anyone knows me, they know breakfast is my favorite type of food. I love breakfast food, and I went there 4 times last week. I mean, they know me by name, and even when I do carry out, they just have it ready to go with everything I want. Um, and so there's that risk. And again, there's always going to be the risk of who you call your real friends or your networking group, your circle of. I'm always a strong believer. Hey, be a product of your environment. Surround yourselves by people that are gonna like you for who you are, not what you have or things like that. I mean, there's always that one person that we know that has the big house, the big car, the big boat, private jet here and there. But you have to ask yourself, are they truly happy? Like, are they really able to make friends based on who they are or what they have?
Right,
That's
right.
that's a huge lesson I've learned. I mean,
Well, now
um,
you bought yourself a home
I did.
recently,
I've been here
right?
for about a year and a half. Well, I tell people this: Jack bought the house.
Oh,
So
oh,
yeah.
what was the litmus test? Like, did Jack run around in the backyard? What?
Um, he wanted new construction. So no
Jack
other dogs had been there. Put it that way. He wanted to be the first one
uh,
here. That was
all right, so I've got to share. So because we keep talking about, I'm gonna look at I've got some images here. I'm gonna pull up for folks. So here's Jack.
yep,
No, it's no mystery where his name came from,
yeah.
right? Because he is part Jack Russell, is that
He
right?
is his breed is I thought it was kind of a joke. And the person I got him from, they said, "Oh yeah, this is a Jacoby." I said, "A Jacoby?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, his mom is a full blood Jack Russell and his dad is a full blood Beagle. They're called Jacobys." And I'm like, "Okay." And then I'm like, "Google what is a Jacoby?" And there's communities and everything and Facebook
It's a
groups,
big
and
deal, huh?
it is a big deal.
Wait, so how much
So
does this little guy weigh?
he's about 27 pounds,
So
maybe 30 when he's had a lot of
he's
treats
got
that
some weight
day.
to him. He's not as small as a Jack Russell.
No, so he's got the beagle head, the beagle tail. He's got long legs, in the Jack Russell body, and he's quick. I mean,
Oh, I bet
he
he's
loves what we
fast.
call the chase game, and he will try and grab something of mine, and then he wants me to chase him throughout the house. So I think that was another house requirement for him, is he needed ample space inside the house to run and play.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. Now, and a couple of things. So we are talking about living well today,
Mhm.
and part of living well certainly is your environment. With the place that you call your respite, the place you take retreat. Now, you work from home as much as do I, and many people nowadays do. So your home becomes even more important in terms of the health and vibe of the place, right? So how do you
Absolutely.
ensure that how do you like to keep your space so that you feel like you're at the top of your game, particularly
So
because you
it's
do.
funny. It's funny you say that, is because I made the comment during that great, we call it a refi boom, when mortgage rates. Well, I literally, my home was my office. I loved being there. I slept there. I ate all 3 meals a day there. But then, I got a I got a child. Parenting, something I wasn't used to.
Right.
Um, and I remember a few days after I had him, I'm like, what have I done? Because I
Because
had to make that.
it's like
It was a
having a
risk. I'm like,
three-year-old. Yeah.
I've always grown up with a dog, but my parents always had the dogs at their house. Like, so if I wanted to see my dog, I went to my parents. That's
Easy
how it
peasy.
was.
Right, right.
Easy peasy. I had no responsibility, no children, no animals, no spouse. It was just I was 100%. I do what I want to do, and then I got Jack, and then
And
I
then Jack.
and Jack
But
happened.
what he has brought to you. So let's talk about this because I'm a big believer, and if you've seen some of my videos here and there, talked about animal messengers and the animals that we have in our lives, whether they just show up for a moment or whether they're with us by our side all the time, and the lessons that they teach us
Mhm.
and the things they reflect back to us. So talk a little bit about, there's nothing like the love of a dog, and I've had enough dogs to know that too. I love my cats, but there's nothing quite like the love of a dog. And what life lessons, I guess, what things has Jack taught you other than, feed me, let me go potty, the
You
basic
know,
life living skills, but
he's taught me how to slow down. I mean, where I say this as again, as the glass isn't half empty but half full, work isn't everything, and sometimes you have to find that way to unplug yourself. And, Jack has a bed in every room. He's that kind of dog, and he sleeps in the bed with me. And where you used to be up, you're like, hey, let's get up and go. There's nothing like that. Hey, it's cold outside, you're snuggled up with your dog, his head's right there on your shoulder. That's kind of a hard feeling to beat, and they look at you for everything. It's like, there's a saying, you know a dog can be your best friend for a time being, but the dog looks at you as you're his or her best friend for their life.
yeah,
And I mean,
that's
that's
true.
that's
I never looked at it
it
like that,
is.
but
It is.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
there's nothing like coming home where you've been, I mean, even when you're gone for 30 minutes and they're at the door, they're waiting for you, like they haven't seen you in days. So I mean, it's rewarding like that. And where we're kind of touching base on what you said last is, I was a workaholic. I was in the office every single day. That was my happy place. I got Jack. And then I said, uh-oh. So what did I do? I put Jack in daycare. I'm like, I'm going to do this parent thing. It's going to be great. Well, got a couple phone calls after about 8 or 9 months of being there, and Jack can no longer go back to daycare. I don't know what happened where I'm going to get the defensive parenting. It wasn't my child. He's innocent, but
Well, I think that there could be enough smarts there too, where he was like, if I screw up,
oh yeah, oh yeah,
my
he does.
dad
And he's
has
like,
to take me back.
he has to take me back. And so, I mean, my office is about 20, 25 minutes from my house. He's got a bed there. He'll go once in a while to the office. But then I said, I've got that extra bedroom in my house at the front, front where you walk in. I
Yeah.
get there and I'm stenciling things out. I'm like, if I just get this desk and then I can get another desk. Flash forward to now, I don't even leave my house. I mean, I'll go run errands and I'll meet my clients and I'll grab a cup of coffee and dinner. But, I just realized, I'm like, okay, this means I can now take my dog for a longer walk in the morning because now I don't have to drive 20 minutes. And
Yeah. See, it was all masterminded. It was all
he's
well, just like the
he is
house.
smart.
Once
He is
again,
smarter
Jack
than me.
masterminded the book.
Exactly. He knew what he wanted. So,
Well, I know that, also when you think about, I've seen pictures of you guys out on the water. You do a lot of stuff out in nature, and that's something we talk about too, is how you re-energize yourself, how you find creative outlets, how you because work, I love my work too, but there's a saying one mentor of mine said to me, and that you want to be like a diamond. You want to have as many facets, and the more facets that you have, the more light you reflect. And so I think that it's, anything that's important that you feel you feel that childlike excitement or enthusiasm over, or you feel like a new person or expanded, whatever that might be. To you, I think you spend a lot of time on the water from
oh
what I
yeah.
have seen over time. What other types of things do you love to do, or where do you love to go to kind of re-energize you and Jack? I'm sure he goes with you whenever
He
you're out
does.
in
He
nature.
does. And that's kind of a mistake I made. So it's like, who has the worst separation issues, me or him? I mean, he literally goes,
It's a
it
codependency
is,
for for the
it
books.
is,
Who
and
cares? It's
thankfully my
beautiful.
mom, that Jack is her grand puppy. So my mom is, if I can't take him with me, she's right here. She's like, I'll watch Jack. So,
Aw, that's great.
but you're right. I mean, I always tell people it's so important to have other outlets and then make those hobbies and then be passionate about it. Anyone knows me, they know the real reason I bought my house is because it's a 5-car garage with like a bedroom attached. I mean, I was always that big car guy. I loved it. I mean, the need for speed, driving fast, and I like the ultimate where I can work on it. And so,
Okay,
uh,
what's your favorite car? If
ooh,
you could wave a wand, let's do this. If you could wave a wand, what
that's
car
like
would
asking a mother that has 5 sons which one is her
which
favorite.
one's the
That's a tough
favorite?
question. I mean, there's going to be
Okay.
everything. I mean, everyone knows me. I love my old BMWs. I mean, that's what I got in the garage right now. And one of the things that I love doing when the weather permits or the weather is nice from between April to October is every other Saturday they have cars and coffee. It's a great way for me to get out there and network. Jack goes. Everyone knows Jack, and he's got
I'm
his little
sure he's this larger than life character, right?
he is. I mean, that's I love doing that. Just making small talk with people, and then and then a person in the background kind of hears you talking about work. Like, wait, are you a mortgage lender? I'm like, yeah. I always have a card with me. I'm like, hey, here's my cell phone. Just give me a call if you want to chat. And it's great. Or you mentioned the lake. I mean, everyone knows that Netflix show Ozarks, and they go, is
Yeah.
the Ozarks really like that? No, it's not.
They're
It's
not.
it's not. I mean, I called Lake
What
of the
is it
Ozarks.
like? What is it like? I've never been there.
Um, it is the redneck Riviera. I will say that. I mean, um, if you are looking to get away, well, let me put it this way. There are different parts of the lake. I think it's got like a more than 1,100 miles of coastline or shoreline, I should say. So it's a big lake, but it's not like Lake Michigan where it's just a big blob. I mean, it's an old river channel, and you have all these coves, and it's
Right.
bars on the water, and the restaurant on the bar, and then all the lake houses. So then there's house parties, and I've got a really great group of friends down there. A couple of them live in
Now, is this a distance from you? Is this quite a distance from you or not really?
well, it's like I said, Lake of the Ozarks depends on what part of the lake you're on. If I leave my house, I can be at Lake of the Ozarks, one part of the lake in an hour and 45. But if I go on one side of the lake, I could be almost 3 hours.
Wow,
Um,
it's that big.
it is
Okay.
that big because again, it's Lake of the Ozarks is in the middle of Missouri, so you got Kansas City, and then you got St. Louis, and then now you have people coming down from Des Moines and Chicago and
Right, right, right.
Arkansas, even some people in Oklahoma, and there's a couple people from even Texas that come up. They go, "Hey, it's a 5-hour drive, but we're here all weekend. This is our second home."
But the natural beauty of at least what I have seen in
Mhm.
images, I mean, it seems pretty spectacular. Yes?
There are a lot of if you like hiking, there's caves, there's just so much to do. There's water activities. I've got some really great friends, and we call it the Lake family. I mean, they're very generous, and they got a Airbnb that I think sleeps 16 or 7 or maybe even 20 people. They go, hey, we haven't seen you all since Labor Day weekend. We're coming down, and we want you to bring a meal to share with us, and that'll be here in a few weeks, which we're all excited for. But again, you could do Lake of the Ozarks year round. A lot of people think it's just a summer destination, but
Right. I was going to ask that about, what is it like? I mean, it's not treacherous at all in the winter, like the roads and the.
well, I mean, it really depends. I mean, um, here in the Midwest, we literally can get all 4 seasons in a week. I remember Halloween was like 28 degrees.
Ooh,
After I left the wedding in Charlotte with you. I get off the plane in Kansas City and it's like 20 some degrees. So I'm like, I just left 85 degrees. This is unacceptable.
yeah. Yes, that
Following
was
week,
we were together. We was so Nick and I some quick backstory. I was introduced to Nick through my cousin, who is a realtor as well as her side gig in Charlotte. And I was in Florida and I was trying to do a refi. And the interesting thing is that when you're self-employed, um, financing period, or refinancing anything, financing anything, it's can be a challenge. There are extra hoops, let's just put it that way, that you have to jump through. And if you don't have someone who's really well prepared to hold your hand and prepared and committed to holding your hand through the process, it can be frustrating to say the least. And I was butting up against that with this other a local lender. And my cousin Kendra said, call this guy. He can take care of you. I said, he's like in Kansas City. I'm in Florida. She said, no, he funds some of my deal. I'm telling you, he can work anywhere. I said, okay. All right. So we did, and I don't know, it wasn't very long. Within maybe mm, 4 weeks, 5 weeks maybe or something. It wasn't very long. I had my refinance and on the beach house. And then we've done deals since then, a couple of deals since then.
Mhm.
So that's how we met, but we never met in person until a couple months ago at my cousin's wedding. And I'm going to share a quick story.
Go for it.
This is going to embarrass you.
That's okay.
But so Kendra had, my cousin had, I mean, don't you agree? It was absolutely stunning wedding.
It was a great wedding.
Abs
It was beautiful.
Beautiful, beautiful sunset wedding. And it was spectacular. So, and she had all, of course, she had all the things, and everything was gorgeous and the music was great and the beverages were great. The food was amazing. And so one of the
Absolutely.
things that she had, so and then outside she had this piano player and he was fantastic and he was playing all of this, like a lot of Billy Joel and Elton John, of course, etc., because he was a piano singer.
Hmm.
And she had a late night snack and they were these warm cinnamon dipped in chocolate churros.
Yep.
Almost like in these little containers, like a McDonald's French fry type container, but really lovely. And she had a table of them, and I grabbed some, and I don't know if I was just full and the wine and the this and whatever. I had one churro. Okay. So my girlfriend, Linda, I turn around and she said, Angela, this is my fourth thing of churros. Like, so how many you're going to be on a total sugar high? Like, how many have you had? She goes, I don't know. There's like 3 or 4 churros in every one. And this is like my fourth container. I'm like, my God, Linda, that's like 16 churros in any event. So we're laughing. So all of a sudden I go, and Nick's back, your back is to me. And you're talking because you're total social butterfly. Nick is
That's
totally
me.
working the room and having fun. You hardly know anybody there. And meanwhile, by the end of the night, everybody knew Nick. So his back is to me. And I go, Nick, and I was gonna ask if he had tried the churros yet. He turns around. He's so
And they're
happy
probably
with
all
his
over my
churros.
mouth.
He's got chocolate all over. It was like out of a comedy. Like
Yeah.
he's got chocolate all over. He's like, oh my God, these are so good.
They were
And
addicting.
you were very happy with your
Oh,
churros. I just had to
I
share
mean,
that because no one can possibly appreciate how funny it was unless you were there, because to see that it was like it was like it was scripted. It was hysterical. I was
oh
wondering if
no.
you'd gotten them, and boy, had you gotten them. You were loving them.
Oh, I
But
was
that was a
happy.
great time, wasn't
I
it?
was happy. Oh, the
Yeah.
wedding was great, and I think your cousin Kendra says, where the amount of business she and I have done together is just breathtaking, and incredibly grateful for our relationship we have together. But she came up, she's like, Nick, I'm gonna be honest with you. You know more people at my wedding than now my husband, because it was everyone I did alone for, and me being in Kansas City, there's always that, like, it's the whole, how do I know this guy? I operate off my cell phone. I'm happy to hop on a Zoom call.
But they haven't put the face with the name
No.
necessarily.
And
Right,
I could
right,
just, I just couldn't, I remember because there was the party bus and there was this girl talking about something. And I'm like, Sarah Zakari. And she's like, who are you? And I
right.
go, me, it's Nick. Nick, Nick, Home Loan Nick? I'm like, yeah. Oh my God. I mean, it's like, I'm like, oh wow, I'm like a celebrity. Oh my.
Home Loan Nick.
Yes.
Well, and then your voice is very distinctive. So as soon
It
as they
is.
hear the voice, they put it together to go, oh my gosh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
And when you think about as a lender, I mean, you are looking behind the curtain at that person's life, at some of the most
mhm,
intimate details of their finances, et cetera. And so there's a great amount of trust. And I want to talk a little bit about that because, people often say, how do you build trust? How do you build trust? If you're in sales and you say, "Oh, well, I used to have salespeople, I would manage a team of salespeople, and they would say to me, and this was in media, and they would say to me, well, how do I get this guy to trust me? And
mhm,
I don't know that there's a magic formula. I think it has to be very organically, authentically
absolutely. you know,
cultivated.
and I tell people this, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. My business is people are divulging all of their information, their finances, everything, you know,
You're
social
getting to
security
see
numbers.
all their dirty laundry. I mean,
I
it's
do. I mean,
just,
and that's my
right?
living. I said, when people ask me, they go like, "Hey, I think I need a private investigator." I go find a good mortgage lender. They'll find everything, and that's what it is. But my overall rule is whenever I have a new client engagement, it's not, I said, I am not here to sell you anything you don't need. I'm not here to tell you your vehicle's out of warranty or you need to send me money so I can rescue some prince or princess in Saudi Arabia that I'm going to pay you back. I just said, I want you to be able to trust me so I can trust you because that's what my business is based off of. At the end of the day, everyone's like, well, I just want the best deal. I said, all of us mortgage lenders, we're all going to be around the same ballpark. Maybe someone's got a lower rate, but they've got higher fees or vice versa. My overall job is to get you into the house or get you a better payment from your existing payment.
Right,
Look at
right,
the
right.
opportunity cost. So that's my goal for you.
And
Um,
also, I think to look, you look very holistically at the person and where they're
mhm.
at in life, et cetera. You've referred me to a financial planner, for example, et cetera. So you look at the whole formula, whereas sometimes I think people are trying to get in and out. They're
Yep.
trying to get in, get the deal done, and get out. And I think any of us who have, and you're younger than me, you're like a generation younger than me, or so, maybe two generations, I don't know. But I think that when you truly believe what you are doing, you're walking in your integrity. To me, that's integrity means that you honestly, truthfully believe that what you're doing is helping that person. And, and in building trust, I think a lot of it has to do with say what you're going to do and then do what you're going to do what you said you would do,
Exactly.
right? Is that follow through and be consistent. Show up when you say you're going to show up. Send an email when you say you're going to send the email. And I don't think there's any magic trick to trust other than being truthful, walking in your integrity, and then doing what you say you're going to do, right? And following through. And it's just like you
Exactly.
in your industry right now, and you see people bailing out of it because the going might be getting a little bit rough right now with the high rate environment, lack of inventory, with fears in general about the economy, et cetera, right?
Exactly. No, I mean, again, it's kind of be a product of your environment. Love what you do. Never, like I said, never work a day in your life. The whole game of trust. And I shouldn't say it's a game. I mean, it is, you know,
Oh, it is a game that we're all playing. We're all these, the William Shakespeare, all
mhm.
of us are actors on the stage, on the world stage, and it is a game that we play. One of my favorite books from Florence Scovel Shinn, and I've referenced this before, is The Game of Life
Yeah.
and how to play it, right? Remember the game? Did you ever play the Game of
Oh
Life?
yeah.
The
That
actual Game
thin
of
little
Life?
thing and all the colors. You're like, okay, you get to move
Yeah.
here and you get to collect this. I mean, very similar
Yeah,
to almost
yeah,
Monopoly.
right. And
Um,
there's ups and downs and there's ins and outs of life and there's turns in the road you could never possibly predict. But I think if you're always earnestly working to be sincere to benefit yourself and others, because sometimes people say, always put others first, always put others first. Well, if you did that, you'd have nothing left to give. You got to
exactly.
learn to put yourself first so that you're a full body, mind, and spirit that you can be of service to Jack and your family and
Exactly.
your friends and your clients. What do you love most, Nick, about what you do in your work?
I learn something new every day. I mean, again, you, I'm part of these social groups, and it's people like I know this, and my favorite comment from a realtor. I've been in the industry for 20 years. I've never seen this before. I'm like, you can learn something new every day. Trust me, I do that myself. And where I work now, I'm incredibly grateful because I don't have to be afraid to ask a question. And that was one of the deciding factors for me because again, there are going to be people out there. Well, I've been doing this for 40 years. I'm like, yeah, but I outproduced you, so that's something.
Right. Right.
Um, but again, it's because I take that leap and I'm not afraid to ask a question. And then when I've got a client that gets referred to me, if I don't have the answers that they're looking for, I say, you know what? I'd rather give you the right answer than the wrong answer. So let me check with my resources and I'll get back to you here very soon. Because that follows up on one of my other traits that I have. I never make a promise I can't keep. And I'll tell people that. I said, rule number one, don't make a promise you can't keep. So, and it sets the expectation. So, kind of answering everything is that's what I love about my industry is
That you can learn
you,
something to all these
you
different
learn something new
scenarios.
and you can walk into a room and you don't know a stranger. That's what a huge aspect of it, the wedding. I loved it. I mean, there was a bunch of people that I kind of knew from over the phone or emails and text messages, but I go, I know you. I mean, I can remember like
And then
you and I
even
never met.
and then I get a text like you're on your way back to Kansas City. I get a text. I just met up with your daughter and your best friends from New
Yeah,
York. And so they text me last night. They said, Nick's gonna be on your show tomorrow. They
I
met you
remember that.
once at the
And then
airport when you were heading back.
and it's the whole thing is everything becomes relationship based.
Yeah.
Jim was at your house. Well, was it 2 weekends ago?
Yes, a couple of
Hey,
weekends ago.
I sent you a text at like 10 o'clock your time, and I'm like, hey, do me a favor, tell Jim I said hello. So
I know. And I said, Jimmy, Nick says hi. Oh my gosh. He told you we met him at the airport, right? I'm like,
yeah, yeah, I remember that. I mean, and that's what I love about my job is I can remember, I'm not going to mention names, but the person I did my mortgage with, because unfortunately I couldn't do my own.
right, right, sure.
I probably talked to them 4 times, 5 times in total. It's like, here's the rate, here's what we can do. Okay, your appraisal, then okay, you're clear to close. I'm about to make a huge financial, and this is the interact. I never
Right.
I ever again, like never.
Boilerplate. Right.
Exactly. And then I'll be the guy.
Rather than really creating a wonderful experience out of it, creating an art of the moment that you'd be willing to share and tell other people about. Right? Oh my gosh, this guy here, I'm in the mortgage business, but this guy, what an amazing job he did. He made
Oh
me
yeah, I
feel like
mean,
so paid attention to, et cetera, right? Like that lender could have really created a great story and
well,
just decided to mail it in, right?
it's kind of like, again, I'm in a very competitive industry. I mean, with how high rates are and how the lack of inventory and no one's really refinancing, it's coming, but it's not here yet. So everyone's trying to like get the business the right way. So like, well, don't use this guy or don't use that. And it's kind of like one of those tacky comments on a business card. The biggest compliment I can receive is a referral from you. I'm here to help your friends and family. So your cousin, she'll refer me and they go, why are you referring him? He did my loan. I'm happy. That's the biggest compliment. It's just that
Sure.
I trust him with everything. And I remember I guess, I don't know if it would be your uncle Sean,
Yeah,
Kendra's
no, he
father.
was cousin because Kendra's my second cousin. Sean's
Okay.
like, yeah, yeah.
This is the best feeling I had from that wedding. As I'm sitting there talking to some people, Sean comes and puts his arm around me and says, you must be Nick. And I go, how do you know that? He's like, everyone you've talked to at this wedding, you've done a loan for. Kendra sold them a house, and I know you're her finance guy. I'm like, and I just kind of smiled. I'm like, that's right. I mean, and
It's
that's
a
just
hoot. It's just a hoot. See,
it
I
is.
didn't put that together until you're saying that today. I'm like, I just figured you were a social butterfly, which you are, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
You wrote so many of her friends' homes. Well, that's why she got into real estate at the time that she did anyway, because she's got a
Uh-huh.
full-time position with Honeywell, right? But
Your cousin is one smart cookie. I mean, she is.
yeah.
I
Well,
talked
and she's
to.
assertive. She's assertive and she's highly, highly motivated and super smart. And yeah, she's got it all together. And
It
a
is. And
beautiful new home and husband. And all
And
that.
Duncan.
So.
Can't forget Duncan our
And
dog.
Duncan and Sir
Yeah.
Duncan Doodle. All right, so we've got a few minutes left, and I want to ask you a couple of rapid fire questions that I
Go for
promised
it.
that I try to, at the end of each interview, throw out there. So, what do you love most about where you live in the world?
Ooh, where I live, the Midwest, again, you are always on your toes. It's not like, oh, you can predict you don't know what the weather's going to be like tomorrow. It could be a great day to be inside, or outside, I should say, or it could be a great day to be inside and nappy. I mean,
So the diversity of where you live
the
and just
diversity. The big aspect, though, that I've come to realize, me being centrally in the U.S., I can be anywhere in a few hours on a plane. I mean, Charlotte took me 2 hours. I was there.
yeah.
Uh,
But you could also go to Santa Monica,
Santa
right?
Monica,
You
few
could
hours.
you
I
could
could
go to
go
San
Pacific
Francisco, you could
Northwest.
go right, right.
And at the same time, you could also just hop in the car and drive. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
if I want to
I
compare,
love driving. I'm going to be driving to New York soon. People think I'm crazy, but I shouldn't say I love the drive itself, but I like being able to come and go and have the flexibility, have my own vehicle with me, take my time, stop and see my friends in Winston-Salem, stop along the way, and then I'm not at the mercy of, I mean, sometimes it's just you have to fly, and I get that, and flying doesn't bother me at all. But I also, particularly this time of year with holidays, etc., I don't love being at the mercy of the airlines and a missed flight or a late flight or the weather or whatever. I'll get in the car, and so I'm getting ready to make that jaunt soon. By the way, it's about an 18-hour
like,
drive in good weather.
put on some
Um,
good music. There you go.
yeah, yeah. So, all right. So, what's your favorite word? Absolute favorite word that makes you feel that glass totally full runneth over kind of feeling?
Acquisition. I love that word.
Acquisition.
Acquisition.
That's interesting. Now
Yeah.
tell me why.
Um. Ooh. It just felt
Oh.
like one of those. I'm a public school kid. I didn't go private. I mean, even through college. But it's just one of those words like acquisitions, like mergers and acquisitions. You're like, oh, I think
You
I
are
want
a
to take that
finance guy. So really,
finance.
really at the deepest part of you, you really are a finance guy.
I am.
Um,
I am.
okay, if I were to survey 100 people, and I would say to them, 100 of your friends, colleagues, whatever, and I said, Nick Sherf is fill in the blank, what would you
Loud.
hope
No,
they say?
they probably say loud. I mean, I am the guy, that I am loud, and I said, hey, I'm energetic. I mean, I get people know
Where do
that,
you get that? Where do you get that energy from? You've got a wellspring of energy.
easy,
How do
easy.
you nurture that? Where do you get it from? Do you ever get like tired or burnt out feeling?
9 o'clock every night. I'm
Oh,
I'm I'm conked out.
yeah.
Lay in bed, play on my iPad, do little puzzles in my basement where I'm alone and it's quiet. But I'm a middle child. Always fighting for attention. Well, like pick me, pick me. I mean, uh, 5'8". I'm a little guy. Compared to some of my brothers are over 6, but I don't know what happened. Maybe I'm looking for my real dad somewhere. But I just tell people, they go, "You're so loud." I'm like, I'm passionate. I love to be heard, and where again, life itself. I mean, it's survival of the fittest. It's a competition. You know,
It's a game. It's a
it's a
game,
game.
right? It's a
You want to
game.
be heard. So,
So what's on the horizon for you, love? Like as you look out over, I mean, I know no one could crystal ball what's going to happen economically with the rates, et cetera, but for where you sit and for what you hope for in your heart, what do you see on the horizon for you?
well, I told your cousin I'm coming back to Charlotte at the end of January. So,
Oh yeah?
and
Okay.
I need to come see you in Jacksonville. So we'll put that on.
Yeah, I would love that. Oh, we
Um,
would have a grand
we
time.
would, we would. It's that kind of falls back on my mentality. I focus one day ahead, or not one day ahead. I just like, hey, here's today. Let's make the most of it. Let's live it like it's meant to be lived.
Oh, I love
It's
that.
so hard to predict the future. I've got a client and their referrals from your cousin, and they're closing on a beautiful home on the 1st of February. And I just say, hey, let's kind of forecast here. I said, at think we're going to be in a better rate environment because the Fed's doing this. This is what I would recommend. Um, but I said that's me kind of going against my word. I'm like, well, here's what I could do today. But now I'm trying to really focus on that. Okay, let's kind of predict the future. Where am I going to be?
Right, right.
I can tell you when rates really correct, I'm going to be living back at my office. Jack's going to be there with me. We're going to get his little doghouse. And I'm ready for that. I'm excited for it. I mean, building new relationships when you get that. I mean, I got a phone call this morning. Hey, so I was pre-approved with Rocket Loans, and my realtor told me to call you. Can you help me better? I'm like, absolutely. And just the biggest compliment. They go, hey, he's doing his job right. And I said, hey, let's predict the future a little bit. Let's do it this way.
Well, and I think those referrals are and that's the bulk of where my work has come from over the years too. And I think it's a testament, as you said, to trust, because when people give someone a referral, that's a huge sign of their trust in you and faith in you and oftentimes it's family and friends and that they're referring to you, et cetera. It's a big responsibility to uphold, right? It's an honor, really.
Exactly.
It's an
It's an
honor.
honor,
Yeah.
and you're getting referred that because again, it's like I tell people this: people refer me as it's you don't see things black and white. Again, no disgrace to some smaller banks. You walk in there, you talk to the loan officer, and it's just very cut and dry. Here's what we can do for you today. Your realtor, Marilyn, is great. I love working with her, and I can remember she sent me some clients. Says, hey, I told him to call you, and I talked to him. He goes, well, if you're going to deny me, just tell me right now. I said, hang on, let's think outside the box. And I can remember, I'm like, all right,
Well,
man,
because
I
you
got your
do, you
loan.
just
This
get
is the
so
direction we're going.
discouraged. If you've got a unique circumstance, you get discouraged because you just get so many doors slammed in
Mm-hmm.
your face. Yeah.
It is. And I can remember, and I was just completely casual about it. I just locked up the bank I was working at. This would have been probably June of 2022, I
Hmm.
think. Or maybe it was 22. And I'm walking out and I call him on my cell and I said, his name was Austin. I said, Austin, hey, it's Nick. All right, my man, I got everything structured. We're good to go. He's like, wait, what? He's like, no, I'm like, we're good. We're good. And I'm just starting my car. He's like, you're so casual about it. I'm like, well, just repeat after me. Stick with Nick. That's my tagline.
Stick with
Stick,
Nick.
stick with Nick. Everyone knows you that. I said, hey, repeat it after me. I got you.
Well, if
And
someone would like to reach out to you, Nick, it's at
Sherf.com. Yeah.
nicksherf.com, SHERF, or your email.
It's going to be my first name, Nick.Sherf, SHERF, at primelending.com.
At
So
primelending.com. And I'll put that in the post too when I put
that'd
it
be
up, and
great.
I'll make sure that there are some links to your website and to you, etc. And we are all wishing you and Jack a beautiful, beautiful holiday season. So are
As
you
to
sticking
you,
close to home, I would guess? Yes?
we are sticking close to home. I made my Santa trip last night, I think one last time. So I might trust Jack with some scissors and some wrapping paper. We'll find out. But
The
he,
ribbon.
he's asleep
He's
in his
like,
bed
oh
now.
boy, Dad, just give me
Yeah,
the treats. Just give me the
that's
treats.
he
All
lives for
right.
the treat.
Well,
So.
any one last final, I'm just gonna one final statement, if you will, or assertion, affirmation, whatever, for those who are looking at starting out, making that transition from either college into the workforce, or they're in a job that it the shoe doesn't fit anymore. The shoe's too small and they want to break out, but they may not feel like they have the courage or the confidence to do so. What words of advice could you offer to those
Really,
people?
it really comes down to this: no risk, no reward. You got to be a risk taker. You know, if everyone sees black and white and is afraid of risk, nothing's going to happen. We'd be very boring in life. I mean, get your paintbrushes out and know what you're worth. I mean, don't be afraid to assert that. Say, hey, this is the value I can bring. And I tell people, I said, but don't be afraid to take in value yourself because the last thing I like is those no one. I mean,
Well, that's the thing, and I've been trying to encourage my daughter too, is that other people won't assign value to you. You have to
yeah,
do that for yourself. And then you can let them decide whether they'll honor that or not. But it has nothing to do, what they see in you has nothing to do with what you believe in yourself. And they certainly can't see it if you don't see it, right?
absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, is know what you can bring to the table, and again, for all my friends out there that have siblings or relatives or friends that are graduating or wanting to make the next leap, you can't predict the future. It's a risk that you want to take, and at the end of the day, we sleep in the bed we make. I mean, that's kind of how it comes down
Well,
to
and
it.
you can always get up. My mother said that to me a
You
couple
can always
months ago.
get
She
up,
said, if you fall down, you can always stand up. And sometimes what's in that standing up is when you raise up to the next level because of that courage, because of the muscle that you built because of falling down in the first
Hmm.
place, right? So,
Absolutely.
well, wishing you lots of smooth sailing over the next month or so, and make sure that you come on down to
Oh,
Jacksonville.
I
That you're
will.
always welcome. The door is always open.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
So
Thanks again, Nick. You be
perfect.
well.
You too. Thank you
And
so much,
this,
Angela.
yes, and thank you. This will be posted on angelamoonin.com for those of you who are watching. It'll be live on the Living Well Today page. And we hope to see you again next week before Christmas. We'll see you then for Living Well Today. Bye for now.